big shout out to supportive moms and spouses and kids.
Hey, it's not about my scientific curiosities anymore. Hey, everybody, we have the same mission here. What's a startup? That was my first question. What's a startup? So we have to be brave to try things that seem somewhat crazy.
Yep. Welcome to The Dish, where we invite entrepreneurs to share their insights into the next generation of biotech companies. I'm Johannes Fruehauf, founder and CEO of LabCentral and Biolabs. After over a decade of working with entrepreneurs and supporting more than 1,200 startups, I'm here to bring you stories from our ecosystem. Are you ready to dish? Hello everyone and welcome back to The Dish. Today we're talking with CEO and co-founder of Cellino Bio, Nabiha Saklayen. You started this company in 2017 and Cellino is working on biomanufacturing technology for cell therapies. Since then you have grown quite rapidly, raised more than $95 million in venture capital and $25 million in grants. Congratulations and welcome Nabiha.
Thank you so much for having me. It's nice to be back home to where it all started.
Yeah. So before we go into some stock questions, we love the color orange at LabCentral, and thank you for wrapping the color today.
Yes, it's a good color.
You brought an orange object for us to look at. Which did you bring?
Yes, I love that prompt, the orange object. So I brought my copy of Radical Candor by Kim Scott. When I heard the word orange, it stuck with me because I always thought it was interesting that this book has a very bright orange cover, and it's all about how we should lean into being honest and direct in how we communicate with each other and work. And I had the chance to meet Kim Scott a few years ago at the Coastal Venture CEO Summit, so she left a profound impact on me. What was funny was I couldn't find the book. Just in the past couple of days, I was looking for it. I was like, where is it? Where is it? And I sent a note to my company and my team. I was like,
who had it borrowed?
Who has it? And it was Eric Snow, our amazing automation engineer. So he brought it back for me today so I could show it to you.
Excellent.
So it's been traveling within Team Cellino.
Excellent. Thank you for bringing that and for the background. Yeah, it's a well-known book in our industry. All right, today's topic is leading with intention. And you've been doing that for quite a while at Cellino now, but before we dive into that, can you walk us through your unique path into biotech, into deep tech?
I'd be happy to. It's been an incredible journey. Like you mentioned, we started right in 2017, end of 2017, when I was wrapping up. I just graduated from Harvard with a PhD in physics, and it was an interesting time being in Boston. Having never thought about entrepreneurship. It wasn't a career path I was aspiring to. I wanted to be an academic. But Boston is such an entrepreneurial place, and the academics here are amazing. So I had the chance to collaborate with George Church, Derek Rossi, David Scadden, and they loved the technology. They said, you have an amazing technology, you should do a startup. And what's a startup? That was my first question. What's a startup? What do I do? How do I do it? But I was curious, I was open-minded, so I took a year to explore, and it's quite incredible to imagine we've never looked back, and we keep growing and we keep expanding not just our team and our technology, but our ambitions on how to impact human health. And it's been an incredible journey, and I'm actually very grateful to the Boston ecosystem. I want to give a shout out to you, Johannes, and LabCentral. I think LabCentral has been a huge heartbeat for Kendall Square and the home for innovation. So it's amazing.
And you spent a good amount of time here as well. Back to your starting point out of Harvard, and you mentioned your amazing supporters and advisors. From the beginning, you said you wanted to do this not by yourself. You wanted to have some co-founders. Why is that? And why is it good to have co-founders?
I have always been a team player. It's kind of funny because I'm an only child, but I love working in teams. And all the best experiences, most productive experiences in my career have been on teams, whether it was in research teams in academia. I've worked at several institutions during my career, or it was my theater performances, or my musical performances, or Model United Nations. I was president of the team in high school and competed in college as well at the Emory Model UN team. And I just loved it. I think you can really be productive if everybody figures out what role they need to play and you do it together. It just moves faster. So I just felt this calling and I wanted to have a team. And the first person I asked was my lab mate, Marina Madrid, who's an applied physicist. And she also had never thought about a startup. But she was very encouraging. So we said, okay, let's do that. And then my next immediate question was, we should work with somebody who's done this before. Because I don't know anything about startups. I didn't want to just try things and not really think things through. I really value experience just across everything I've done. Even when I was a scientist full time, I would always want to work with folks who are many steps ahead. So in comes Matthias Wagner. It was a mutual introduction from one of my friends, Chris. Chris basically said, Matthias is an amazing entrepreneur. He's built many companies. You're working on optics. He's commercialized semiconductors and other optical technologies. He's going to be an amazing mentor to you. So we met for coffee, and it was the best meeting.
Clicked right away.
We just clicked. And I remember
And I have to say that I had known Matthias for quite a while.
Yes.
He had built one of his first companies with us earlier. So it was so great to see you guys.
He's amazing. And this next coffee we met again, and he said, hey, I'm doing this solo startup, but what you're doing sounds really cool, and I'd love to be a part of it. I'd love to be CTO, which was also different. He's been CEO every other time. So we had this really interesting conversation because at that time didn't really know what CEO meant and what these titles were. I wanted to do the science. I wanted to find product market fit, but he's been an amazing champion for me. And having a CEO
and you're still
in-house,
working together after many years, which is great.
It's the best, and we've both grown and evolved, and the company has expanded. Actually, for Matthias, it's funny. Like since his, I think he was in Japan. He worked for a big company. Since then, Cellino is the largest company he's worked for or with. It's just really funny how we've all had to grow, and we're enjoying it. Every chapter is different as a founder, and we have to adapt and grow and figure out how it works for us. And we've done a good job of reinventing ourselves every chapter.
So no one teaches us startup technique when we're in academia. Are there things that surprised you in your transition from academia to entrepreneurship? How did you figure it out? How are you figuring it out?
What's interesting, I feel that in academia, I also had to figure a bunch of stuff out. So I'm driven by curiosities and what is the question. So in my PhD, I wanted to build novel physics technologies for biologists. So I spent a bunch of time knocking on biologists' door. I spent a lot of time on Longwood campus, running around Kendall Square, just to get my questions asked. So I brought some of those ideas very quickly into the biotech space. The one switch that flipped for me was interesting. I can't tell you where that came from, but as soon as I decided I'm going to try to be a founder, I had this switch flip that, okay, it's not about my scientific curiosities anymore alone. It's about solving a real world problem. It's about building a business. What problem are we going to solve? And it's not about my curiosity. It has to be market driven. So I went with that, and that's taken us to incredible new directions that I couldn't have anticipated, but that's been a common theme.
We often see that transition as a painful one, where the academic who's so comfortable in her or his field of science, now they have to learn about making a product, and very different questions become relevant and become important. You need to build a team, you need to build a culture. I know that you guys are very strong on team and culture inside of Cellino. Can you talk to that topic a little bit? How are you doing that at Cellino?
It's a lot of communication, and more communication.
You have some very nice, well-defined company tenets that I wrote down because I want you to comment on them. Seek unity, be brave, and show kindness. How did you come up with them, and how do you live them?
We've been through a few sets of values, Johannes, because again, you're brainstorming, you're forming and norming, and these are more recent, and they seem to have stuck. So a couple years ago, I wanted to get to the core of what is important for our business. And one of the things that's very unique about Cellino is how multi-fluent we are. The three founders were physicists by training, and we of course built our biology team, We've built our automation team. We have an AI team. They're coming from the drone industry and self-driving cars and very different technology stacks. We have therapeutics developers. We have medical devices. So the Seek Unity theme is really about, hey, everybody, we have the same mission here. We're here to build solutions for patients, to deliver medicines for patients. So we have to row in the same direction. So even if you might have different ideas, we have to get in a room and debate it out and make a decision. So that Seek Unity is really important because we could have chosen alignment. That was another word on the table, but alignment doesn't have to mean that you are united necessarily. You could still be in separate parallel tracks. We're kind of pushing all the parallel tracks together, the unity vision. And the founders, we do a lot of that. We're in a lot of different parts of the company, and we weave it all together so the team understands where we're going. The second one, Be Brave, that was the one that was most natural, because what we're doing, all the things we're exploring are being done for the first time a lot of times in the world. So even to imagine something, and usually it starts as a sketch on paper that Matthias draws, and then you'll see in 6 months, in 12 months, it's been realized, and now we have automated, semi-autonomous biomanufacturing running in the Cellino labs. It was just an idea. So we have to be brave to try things that seem somewhat crazy and push ourselves and be okay with the first, many times, it not working out, and building out enough strategies for risk mitigation and other contingency plans to be successful. Because it's not that you tried it once, you gave up, and it's over. We must have a long-term plan. The show kindness, this was one that our COO, Avi Kulkarni, came up with, and I think it's an amazing one. And he's wonderful. He came from Medtronic. He was leading all of neuroscience. So we brought him in at the Series A to help grow the team and build sort of more structure as we scale. But he always says that's just who we are. We care about our team. We care about patients, and the show kindness piece also comes up in how we think about failure. So I always want to tell my team, like, it's okay to fail, and we need to show kindness to ourselves when we do fail because the work is so hard. So that's how some of these values came into being, and they could evolve if we have this conversation again in a couple of years. It could be a little different, but we're really resonating with that. We just had a team meeting. I just gave the team a quick update on the things that are going on in my world and how I'm seeing things, and it's amazing to have all of them stand around. We're also an office-first company, so we come into the office at least 4 days a week. A lot of people are 5 days a week also, so it's just, we're in it together. We're in it together. We can't be siloed off. We have to do this together.
That's great. I like the iterative idea of, like, you're growing up as a company, you're growing up as a team, and so they may adapt and change over time. But you emphasize the importance of balancing career and work and your family. How do you create space for both?
I'm very blessed. I have an amazing team at work, and I have the best team, best family at home. And it's all about that community spirit, that encouragement. I have a fabulous mom, and actually, if I had to point to one thing that makes me who I am today, it is her. She grew up in a small town in northern Bangladesh, was the first woman to go to college when it was absolutely unacceptable for women to go to college, and built her career in education. And here I am, I get to do this because of her, and she's an amazing champion. And I met my husband, Eric, in grad school. We're both physicists, and he's been just tremendously supportive of everything I've been doing with my career. And, we just see this Cellino as sort of our lifelong mission as a family, and it takes a lot, but it's been amazing. I have a daughter now. She's the love of my life. She's a year and 9 months yesterday, and it has been amazing to have another focal point. And it's interesting. I wasn't sure how I'd feel about work and what would the balance be. I'm even more obsessed with my work. Because now I want to leave this legacy behind for her, and it's important, and the stakes are high.
Excellent.
So it's hard. It's not easy. I do encourage everybody to make some time to do those other things, whether it's music or family or hobbies, whatever you need to do to keep your sanity, because it makes us more effective operators and leaders.
Totally. Big shout out to supportive moms and spouses and kids. That's great. And it's important to make room for that, absolutely. Now that you've done this for 7-8 years, what advice do you have for your younger self or for your younger peers who are just starting out, just out of grad school? What would you wish someone told you back then?
I wish someone had told me more explicitly how ridiculously hard it was to do this. And I want to mention that because I do think my journey is quite special, and I feel so privileged. I've been able to do so many things that I actually, everything I've done since Cellino started is beyond imagination for me. But the intensity of it, the pressure, these are all real things. So the only way to keep going on this journey is to be super motivated by the mission and the focus, which for us is getting these transformative therapies to patients. How is that going to happen? That's what we're obsessed with. But if it's anything else, like it shouldn't be because, oh, being a CEO or an entrepreneur is a cool thing. No, really, this is the hardest thing you could possibly do with your life, so you better care about it enough, because otherwise you won't get through those tough points in time. So think about the why very carefully.
Certainly be very aware of the intensity that it takes. Well, thank you so much, Nabiha, for being our guest today, and thanks to our audience for tuning into this episode of The Dish, and I hope we'll see you next time as we do our founder interviews. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Johannes. Thank you so much. Should we talk about why you picked orange?
We were choosing color, like you can stop it, or you can let it roll. We were choosing color early on, and there was a contest between blue and green and boring corporate colors. And I think it's Maggie who brought the orange, and I didn't really like the orange much at the beginning. But it was such a great choice because it's like everyone is happy when they see orange. Most people are. And it still is energizing. Look at all this orange here. And I was worried at some point it might age. It hasn't aged much in 10 years. So we still keep it going.
Can I keep asking Johannes questions?
Yeah, please.
What you have done for entrepreneurship in Kendall Square is very special. You've essentially created this incredible home for entrepreneurs, and I don't know if you ever think about that impact and legacy of what that means for founders like us to have
That's so
this
kind
kind
of you
home.
to say.
But how did you get started? Like, what was the moment where you decided I should do this?
It's really like I was you 20 years ago, and we started our first company, and it had the same challenges, like find money, find people, find space, do the science. And where do you do the science? You need a lab. And the searching and procuring of lab space, and the pay expensive equipment, and they get the permits, and talk to the fire department, talk to the pest control. Before you have no pest control, you get no permit to do lab work. It's all very inefficient use of brain time for scientists, founders. That's really what got us started with this. After we had done that company, we said there needs to be a better way.
Amazing.
The funny thing about it is that infrastructure is what we first try to solve, and then we realize that the community that forms around the infrastructure is the more important thing. And you experience that yourself.
Yes, and I think the community, and even the interesting things about LabCentral, the art gallery, for example, that is so unique, and it's such a huge part, or the lots of meetups that happen, cultural exchanges. This just adds to the richness, and it sets this community apart for sure.
And it's by design too. I mean, we initially started with like science talks only, nerd talks, and then we realized that it doesn't matter what we talk about. It's important to bring people in one room so they can meet.
I've also noticed you've been expanding globally. What's that been like for you?
It's crazy and fun and scary at the same time.
Because
we keep expanding.
Well, the question is, so many people ask me how to recreate Kendall Square in other cities.
Yeah.
And it's
You
a hard
can't do
one.
that, but you
Yes.
can take certain elements
Yes.
that we know work, and it's got to do with serendipity, it's got to do with availability of capital, and these different elements that are now quite well described. We try to replicate them in other places. And it's also very mission-driven, like you said in your piece. We know that it's through science that we're going to get our problems solved, and science is everywhere. But it's often slowed down with friction in process. And so we have a solution for some of that. We want to bring it to other places.
Awesome. Thank you.
She's turned the tables.